I field a lot of questions from clients around, what they hear that increasing protein intake can have adverse effects on longevity. We see some of the work from Walter Longo and colleagues in animal models and some observational work. Could you maybe describe to folks what the rationale would be for kind of lowering protein from those camps and what the strength of that evidence is at this point?
The theory, or so it goes anyway, is that if you ingest protein, there's an association with rises in a hormone called insulin-like growth factor 1. And IGF-1 is a pro-growth factor, and it's associated sort of, I'll call it a cousin, which is growth hormone as well, are these pro-growth factors. And the theory is, at least, is that chronically increased levels of these hormones could drive cellular growth. Cellular growth, you think, it's not too bad. But uncontrolled cellular growth is cancer, right? And so Walter Longo and several others would sort of point to their very well done, like the science is immaculate, I can't touch it, but it's in some really interesting models, and I would say sort of mouse models and a few other things that shows that these mice on higher protein diets do have increased rates of cancer, and then so they don't live as long. And then you get some of the human observational data, and here's where, to me, if you do a really deep look into the human data, it's actually fairly varied. And so I don't know that there's a consistent pattern associating higher protein intakes with shorter lifespan. Then it gets really gray, and you have to, I think, take a little bit of a leap of faith to say that it's an applicable hypothesis to human beings.
Yeah, I mean, it seems interesting on the sort of practical front when we look at, obviously, some of your work and Theo Spoglu and this idea that, the current RDA for protein only being 0.8 grams per kilo. As we look towards longevity, we're seeing benefits towards that 1.2 grams per kilogram and maintaining muscle mass and supporting longevity. And so those two things obviously seem to be at odds in the sense of, if we're going to increase protein intake to protect muscle and bone, then that's going to support longevity. Then, making sense of those two directions. Could you shed some light on, that suggestion around increasing to that 1.2 and some of the work you've done there?
The practical sort of take-home messages around, it's not just our work. And I mean, it's lots of people in the sort of protein field who would argue that, particularly as you get older, and even the Longo data supports this, is that your requirements for protein actually go up. So there's this condition that we call anabolic resistance that sets in as you get a little bit older, where you don't get the same anabolic effect with protein ingestion that you did when you were younger. Lots of reasons why that's the case, but that may be one of the key reasons why you need a little bit more protein. So the system gets a little bit less sensitive and you need a greater stimulus, so more protein. And as you point out, that's associated with greater muscle mass. It's associated with improved muscle function. Activities of daily living are even improved in those situations. You get less fractures, lots of other things that sort of, are contrary to the idea that lower protein would allow you to live longer.